So here's the deal. I've got this room that's basically the Swiss Army knife of spaces. It's a tiny 8x10 room that serves me as my editing studio, my 3D printing space, my workout space, all rolled in one. And now I want it also to be a guest bedroom. Now to make this transformation happen, I chose a twin-size Murphy bed just based on my limitations. So let me show you how I built this. Alright, so the three things that you find unique in this video is that first, I found the cheapest possible hardware. Most of it was 60 bucks on Amazon, and I rolled those savings into plywood because wood is expensive. Number two is that this is only 12 inches thick, so that means that this is not going to be super bulky outside. Everything online that you see is not normally 16 inches or above, and it still holds an 8-inch mattress, a fluted back panel, this shaker style cabinetry, and it fits in that compact nature. And I'll show you how I did that. And number three is the full build came in about 450 Canadian dollars. Now this is for this exact build. I'm not saying you won't find anything cheaper, but with this kind of look and how it turned out, I think 450 bucks is the best you can find online. Pre-finished is obviously 1,000 or more, right? So let's get into the build and I'll show you exactly how I did it, right? Let's get to it. So now that we have our lumber all cut, as you can see over here, what I wanted to do is now I wanted to do the half lap joint. Now in order to do the half lap joint, I have some illustrations of what I'm going to do for people who are basically watching for the first time and don't know what it is. So I'm going to take out all the area that's shaded right here. And what it's going to do is on either side of the bed, if you could imagine, it's going to be that way, but it's going to be a longer piece. I just showed for illustration. It's going to be the width. So this is going to be 1.25 inches. It's going to be cut out that way, and on either side. So that's going to create a nice pocket for this middle piece, which I have laid out with more markings. So what I'm going to do on the edge, on the end of it is upside down. Sorry about that. So I'm going to notch this piece out, which is the width of the side frames, the middle piece, which is for the pocket, and on the end for the other pocket. So it's nicely going to sit in the middle, and then it's going to accept a piece that's going to sit right on top. So it's gonna cross it so that it's even distribution of weight, and that way I can put my slats on it and know for a fact that it's gonna be super sturdy. So I'm gonna go do this on the miter saw. My miter saw has a depth adjustment on it, and I have the Makita miter saw. So I'll show you how to do it on the miter saw, and yeah, that's pretty simple. I'll just get the notches out and then we'll move from there. So, like I was mentioning, my Makita saw actually has a depth stop adjustment, which is actually pretty neat and handy when it comes for half lap joints. So, what you have is right there, you can see on the left hand side where the slide rails are, there is this tiny groove and a notch. Normally, it should be in this position because you're going to drive the blade all the way down in order to make progressive cuts or stationary cuts. So, you can see the bolt head passing inside of the slot if it focuses and passing it out of the slot. Now if you want depth adjustment, all you have to do is there's a lever underneath it. If you slide it to the side, right now what you can do is it's going to hit a hard stop. And that hard stop is actually governed by this screw right there, which you can raise and lower based on the depth that you need, which is super convenient. So what I did is I just set it to my height, and that way I can drive it down and be sure that I get nice and clean half lap joints. Now you will see me build just a cross frame as I used bamboo slats from my old bed on this one. So the other thing that I ported over from my old bed was the 4-inch mattress. Now I double stacked them to get the 8-inch thickness, and that way I was able to size everything correctly and get all the pieces fixed in. Now this one was a real crapshoot. Trying to figure this mounting as the instructions that come with the hardware are very basic and which were not helpful at all. I'll just toss them out. Now for those attempting this yourself, here's a template. So this plate what I was mentioning, so you gotta bore this hole in this face and you gotta be 1.5 inches away from both sides. The plans are gonna show you whatever it is. This is 8.5 inch thick, but if your mattress is thicker or you modify the plans, make sure that you reference off of the bottom edge. That way it's 1.5 inches both away and it's nicely recessed in. This is the one, the plate that's gonna pivot. This is the one that's gonna stay stationary to your cabinet on the outside. So I'm just gonna mount these holes and pop the bore hole in the center, and then we'll see how the finished product looks like. Now this is a good time to mention that you need a 25mm Forstner bit to drill this pivot hole clearance, which will go about 13mm or 1/2 inch deep. Now the spring side plate is threaded, so you'll be able to attach this from the inside of the frame with some screws and the Allen key that is provided. Just make sure that you're using some thick washers, and it's 6 of them you need in total, so that the fasteners don't poke out on the other side because the screws are longer than usual. So I just use the Craig pocket hole dowel now with some glue and let it dry for a few hours. Then I came back with a chisel, sanded, and finished it up. So I also added wood filler for any spots that were hollow or any chip offs. That gave me a nice and even finish on the outside, considering this will be the side that's exposed. Now I went with not painting the inside of the bed frame as I like the look of the maple wood showing through. The header and the footer I used were the spalted maple boards, and I feel it gave a better pop of color after the Osmo application compared to the regular maple ply. Now this is an optional step. I broke this panel down to make it easier for me to transport, but you can have this panel as a full sheet and it will save you time in lining everything up. So that is another pro tip I wish I had done earlier. Now the final step is to attach the back panel after the finish has dried. And you see I already painted the back. Just don't do that. That's a lesson learned. Just leave it bare, and after doing your final assembly, when all your gaps are perfect, you can paint these boards. It will save you time on the touch-up. So considering I pre-ripped the boards to the nominal size at Home Depot, I'm just cutting them to final sizes here again, and then we'll drill some pocket holes and attach them all together to build this giant frame. This was by far the biggest project I tackled, and it shows when you have to lay your pieces on the floor, moving everything aside after the build. And this is how it turned out. So this is me here building the top cabinet. Now that will house the 2 pull doors with the Euro style hinges, and it can be used for storage for the pillows, the linens, or just extra storage space around. I just found it useful and it completes the look. You'll see it when I place this in the room, that having that top cabinet actually fills up the room and makes it look nice and modern. Now for this step, you see me add the primer to the plywood. This will help the grain lines disappear, and it fills any of those pockets that are remaining in the wood, and the coat comes on and it will look real nice. I know what you're thinking. I paid extra to get the maple wood, then covered it with paint, right? Why? Well, remember the mandate from top management? It make it aesthetically pleasing. So I have to follow suit. I painted most of the components before assembly, as after I get to the final fit and finish, I wanted just the last touch-ups without masking the whole room, and I found it pretty easier this way to have, considering a small footprint of my room, so workability would be much better. Hence, painting outside and then final touch-ups inside. Now this part has the most amount of moving pieces, literally and figuratively. I did a test fit, and the best way I found is that in order to mount the hinges to the outer frame is you lay both the mattress and the mattress box down flat on the floor, and at this point anything that has to be flush with the front face has to be on there. Otherwise you won't get the distances correct. So when you lower it flat, you just go ahead and mark up the hinge locations like how I'm doing so on either side, and after it's time to keep the outer cabinet upright, you can drill 4 anchor holes, securing this to the wall. So the things that I did off camera was I attached the legs that come with it. It's super simple. All you have to do is just put a level when you have it folded out, and then just drill some holes and you can put in the legs on either side. Now I wanted to make this look truly like it was non-DIY. So I went with these fluted panels that come in at 2 foot by 8 foot, and it looks sick. Now I added some floating shelves on the side with some pocket holes. This is just to store some light items. It's not for super heavy stuff, and it can still hold it pretty fine and level. So now the top actually houses the pillows when not in use. So you must have seen this at the starting shot. And I also added a locking pin just for added safety. So that's it. This is the final product. If you enjoy this video, I would much appreciate it if you give me a subscribe and drop a comment down below, maybe of how I can improve the video, questions that you have. I'll try and respond to each and every single one. And that being said, I'll see you in the next one.